harmonizing with nature. With over 4 decades of changing lives, your self-discovery archaeologist, get ready to be the best of you with your host, Beverly Zymet.
Hello and welcome to the Beverly Zymet Show, where being the best you can be has just gotten easier. My friend here today is calling in from Illinois, and her name is Janice Swinney. Janice, welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, looks like you got a beautiful day there behind you out there on the beach, the ocean going.
I figured with all of our quarantine stuff, why not look like we're on vacation somewhere, right? And feel good, right?
Yeah, that's why I fly around space all the time, and there ain't a whole lot of people up there, so it's kind of cool.
That's right. That's for sure. The backgrounds, though, this is different. Again, I've had my daughter actually put this on for me, and I thought it was actually off. So when I did a Zoom prior to this, I seen it on there, and I'm like, she's like, well, I'll take it off here. I'm like, you know what? Just leave it on. I actually kind of am growing more attached to it, right? So she just laughed, and so I left it on there.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because, when you're getting out into the face of the world, shall we say, and you want to set yourself apart and be different, so that you can be recognized, especially if you're doing branding, if you got a business you're starting to build, and just really trying to be out there in the face but be different. And now, because since the pandemic, everybody's out there because people need people, right? And so everybody's doing Facebook Lives, and you name it, it's out there, bam, bam, bam. So everything looks the same, it's just that same static. So how do you stand apart from? So if you're going to be doing any type of Facebook Lives or advertising or starting a show or just getting yourself out there in the face of things with your business, whether you're been in business for a long time, just getting started, having a background and doing it in certain steps is a key element to make you stand apart from all the static that's out there, right? And especially right now.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But I figured this way, maybe if people, when I'm on a Zoom, people will look at the water and stuff, and they'll get happy. They won't think about the quarantine. They'll just feel happy.
Well, that's really good logic, because there is a lot of psychology to that. I mean, the water's moving, it's cleansing, it's freshing. There's a little breeze in the tree, so you've got nature. Nature is an automatic harmony, it just kind of brings peace and everything. And we'll talk a little bit about vacation, because we kind of all been like stuck, in our homes and stuff like that. But I want to touch a little bit on that background and the importance of it, because a lot of times when someone is doing a conversation and a talk, the background can be very distracting, right? And oh my gosh, I've had people on here with interviews. I've watched different shows and stuff, not judging, but it's like you want your information to be paid attention to. You don't want that behind the scenes distraction. So if you've got your living room showing, or your kitchen, or your bedroom, or whatever, a lot of people don't realize that sometimes there's a big mess behind you that you don't even know, right? And or there's distraction. It's like, what is that thing on the wall? What's that picture all about? It's like, what is that thing over there? Seriously, the mind will get distracted very, very easily. But when you have a nature picture like what you've got there, it just kind of brings them into a comfort, right? And they can stay focused on you, on your conversation, on what your content is all about. So that's
even the background that you have, I actually like that, because to me that is just a calming as well. You know what I mean?
Right.
A calming feeling, space, like a quiet, just a floaty, very.
And I've been doing the shows long enough now that people are associating that with me. If they see me in another format or something, they go back to the show. Oh yeah, that's the one that's on that show. They might not remember my name or something, but they hook you up with that. So when you're starting out, and this is another thing that I do, is I teach people how to start their own show. If you're ready to go pro, or if you just want to set yourself aside from and get started with something, it only takes another step to have a professional background and professional look as it does to just be static like everyone else, you know. Then you can start adding your little introductions and, you know, things like that. But it gives that separation of, oh, wow, this person has something to offer. And, you know, everything's going virtual now, you know, so it's really important to brand yourself regardless. You know, I mean, I'm sure you've heard that word before, that branding, you know, and your background is also a form of branding.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? So
True on that one.
yeah. So let's talk about vacation. You're all about vacation. What does that really mean to you? What is it all about? Share that with the audience because
First of all, the vacationing to me is just, it's a sense of freedom, being able to go and travel the world, be able to see the things you want to see, and not having to worry about all the time and stuff. I was a travel agent years ago. So I worked for Motorola and I helped those clients. And then I worked and did some other stuff, mom and pop things. But I worked in the travel industry. So I have a really big passion for travel anyway. So it's just a big thing for me and my family to travel, whether we all go together, or whether it's just me and my husband, you know, things like
right.
that. But I worked in the industry for quite a few years, and I just love it. There's just something about travel and everything that I love. I mean, there are some people I meet that are like, I don't want to travel, and that's okay.
Right.
But I want to be able to see the world, you know, and I want to be able to experience new things and be able to share that with, you know, my kids, even though they're older now, but, you know, to be able
Right.
to share that with family and things. And because in the long run, what is it all about? It's about our memories. It's not about the things we have, right? So
Yes. Yeah. And I think that goes to show, especially with everything that's going on in the world today, you know, it's not about objects, it's not about things, it's about your memories, you know,
yeah,
and when you're making those memories, and especially with the isolation that's going on, you're not able to really interact on that continuous basis. And you talked about freedom. And I
yeah.
so agree with you. I've been on the road since 1997,
Oh,
just
okay.
traveling. I did a lot of traveling prior to that, but I've been literally on the road since 97, just going from one place to the next, a month here, a month there, a week here, a week there, you know. And it's, for me, it's
Mhm.
the lifestyle, you know.
Yeah,
I love it. There's so much beauty out there in the world that I feel, you know, that people miss when they're just stuck. And gosh, I know so many people who haven't even got out of a 50-mile radius of where they grew up.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I know, you know, because everyone's different. I mean, I respect that and all, you
Sure.
know, but I just don't see like how or why, you know. I
Yeah.
mean, but that's because, you know, again, just like your DNA, we're all different, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. And you know, it doesn't compute. So when you have that adventurous mind and that travel and see this and see that, it's like, oh my gosh, there's just so much beauty around the world. It's amazing. And you know,
I
I
was
go,
quarantine would be over soon because I want to go to Hawaii. I love it. So I'm
yeah.
like, let me go there, you know.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And so, you know, for people us, you know, like us that are out there all the time on the move, it just doesn't relate to someone who isn't, you know, and
Yeah.
that's fine. That's, you know, you got to honor that. That's their choice, you know, and they're on the other side of the plate saying the same thing. Oh, I just don't understand how you can just keep on going all over the place, right?
Yeah. They're like,
Yeah.
don't you ever stop for 5 minutes? You
I
know,
know.
like, no, you know, my mom always did say that. She's like, if I stop, then forget it. It's over. She's like, I got to keep moving.
Right. Well, you know, if you're not living, you're dying, right?
Yeah.
And for me, that's living. That being in the move all the time, just on the go, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's just part of life.
Now I
It's
just
like in
now
your
I
blood.
just need to so now I just need to get the moving in where I'm doing this so that I'm working out and losing some weight, right?
Hey, here's something really interesting. We talk about, you know, I work in the industry of mind over matter, right? And holistic medicine. I've been in this for over 40 years, right? And so when in this confined arena, shall we say, we don't have the exercise. But I mean, you can only run up and down the stairs so many times, That's if you have a stairs in your home, right?
Yeah.
You know, and so how can you do that? But it's been proven scientifically, it's been proven for years, and they used it in the sports industry. When you can meditate and in your mind, you know, play the game, you know, that they're finding that when they actually got on the court, that they played better through just doing it in the mind. So you can work out in your mind, and I know you've done a little bit with virtual reality, and so a friend of mine and I were in the virtual reality thing pretty big. I'm not a gamer, but we've taken it into the business aspect. So we have what we call a university. It looks like a regular, you know, school university type thing,
Yeah.
but in the back there's a track that you can run, and it's a mile track. And you go out there in your little avatar, right? And you hit that track, and I've done this more than once. And I start running around the track. And I really feel that I'm there. The psyche, my physical body is getting a workout running around that track, right?
Yeah.
And I can actually feel myself starting to get out of breath as I'm running, you know?
Yeah. It's funny because, you know, I've built the avatar, went in there, but it's funny because you have to, when you're not someone who's done that, like my son, he'll play gaming, and, you know, there's different people who do stuff like that.
Sure.
And have been doing, you know, virtual reality stuff. And for myself, I hadn't, and it's been something that was new for me and I had just started with. But I'll tell you what, learning how, I know sounds crazy, but learning how to jump and run and walk in there, I was like, yay, I was able to, you know, like I did it, you know, and then
Right.
you know, so running around the track, I think I did, but I was just a little like this, you know, trying to get around the track.
Right.
But it was all fun, you know, and I really enjoyed it. It was, you know, it's great.
Yeah, it's a different world. I know the first time I got in there, right? It's like, and I still do. I'll still crash into a wall or something.
It's funny.
But you know, it doesn't hurt as bad in there as it does in real life, you know.
There you go.
But you know, it is a different world, and the neat thing about it, I mean, a lot of times we talk about virtual reality, people think you have to have these big glasses on and the 3D.
Yeah.
That's one way to do it, and having those glasses on, it really puts everything into a whole different dimensional thing. It almost makes you dizzy at first because, you know, the psyche, again, we talk about the psyche, you know, has to shift. But you can get on those platforms without doing that. And it's not all about gaming, but it's that movement. And it's an accomplishment, you know, when it's something new that you've never done. And to be able to, like you say, jump around in there. And I've decided when I go inside of a building, I start to walk instead of running in there. Then I don't crash so much. I can walk up the stairs and go around the corners and walk down the hallway and things like that. So you just learn how to manipulate it, you know, and it takes practice.
I was standing the whole time, and I finally am like, Robert, how is everybody sitting? Show me how to sit in a chair. So I did, but you know, I mean, I enjoy it because, you know, right now it really is a great platform to be able to get out there. And like you say, it's not just this gaming stuff, you know, it really is for business. I mean, there are people out there, whether it be in real estate or whatever, that are going to virtual reality things. They're holding their meetings there. And so I like that. It's just, you know, you have to take a little time to get used to doing something different, you know, but then again, it's getting out of your box and doing something different, right?
Right.
So,
And it's like anything new, it's a learning curve, you know, and just using the equipment or the technology is just unbelievable. It's just like us here today, right? You know, in basically we're in a studio. You're in your studio and I'm in my studio, right? But nobody knows exactly what does that studio consist of. It's not like you had to go down to your local radio station or down to the local TV station and you got all this big equipment and everything, right?
Yeah.
You can turn your home, you know, an office or your bedroom and, you know, wherever it are, your kitchen into what looks like and appears to be a studio. And again, it's that appearance. And that's what sets virtual reality aside from just doing a straight type of Zoom or something like that, because it puts you in the place to where you begin to feel that you're actually there in person. Because when you're talking with another little avatar there, it's that human touch, and the psyche goes to that says, oh, you're right here with another person, they're right here, you can see them.
Yeah.
You're in this environment, you're sitting in an auditorium, you're sitting at a classroom, you're out there on the beach, or you're, whatever the case may be, which is really kind of cool.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think it's when I first started in there though, I mean, having things seem so realistic
right,
because I never thought that it would do that,
right,
because I had never did that. Even if my son did his gaming and things, and was playing with people from around the world and stuff like that, you just don't realize the connections or friends that you can make that are in other countries.
exactly.
And that's just, I don't know. I personally think that's a really cool idea. So
Yeah, it is, and actually, the virtual reality world. And I don't think a lot of people really know this, that the mental health organizations have been using virtual reality to help people get over fears and phobias and anxieties and things like that, depression, PTSD, where they take them into the environment and they push them to the edge of where that anxiety is, or the fear, whatever the phobia is that they're looking to do, because they can instantly shut it off. So let's just say you've got a phobia or a fear of spiders, right? They would bring you, right, you'd have this spider to be ready to jump on, you're reaching that, and all of a sudden it's gone. And then it brings the body back into peace, right? So, and after you do that so many times and remove the fears, I'm not sure exactly how their programs work, but there's something to do with that, and they've been having unbelievable successes with that.
wow.
Right? And so it's the virtual reality world is not just for gaming, and it's not just jumping around a little avatar and playing, and especially now with the whole quarantine thing going on, life has changed as we knew it.
Yeah.
And so more people are getting out there. You're seeing what they're calling, virtual events. That word is kind of getting abused in its real, definition of virtual reality being the avatar world besides a virtual event, so it kind of tilts a little bit from side to side. But, working with Robert on that avenue and really getting in there, because I told him a year and a half ago, this is what I want. I want to be able to do my retreats and my classes and my workshops, in a virtual setting, right, is what I was looking for. And the first time he showed me the virtual reality world, it was all the gaming and the bouncing around, and it's like, no, that don't cut it. That's not my idea of having somebody, in a virtual setting, whatever.
Yeah.
And he called me in January, and he goes, Beverly, I have the answer for you. And I'm like, really? Right? So that was the first time he showed me the university. And when I saw that, I'm like, okay, we're getting close, right? So we take a walk. I mean, here I am flopping around in this little avatar. I'd never been on one before. It's like, oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But when we went inside that university, and then we went into a classroom, it's like, okay, yeah, I could see where I could change some of that. And we went into the auditorium. That's all I needed. When I saw that auditorium, everything just clicked, like, oh my gosh, I can have people in here. I can do this, I can do that. And the rest is history, and here we are, and I was wanting to start another show, but I wanted it to be different this time, because I've done a lot of, Facebook Lives. I've done a lot of different shows. I've been in the face of the camera since I was 7, and back in the olden days, okay, when you had to actually go to the radio station. We're talking the 70s, right?
Wow.
I had my own show at that time, and, so it's definitely different than it is today, right?
Yeah.
So
I didn't know all that about you.
yeah, a lot of people don't. That's just, I have different segments. I actually, when I was doing the radio station, I was also working for 5 different newspapers, where I had, I was freelancing, and I could do a lot of different things that I wanted to cover, and I had my own column, right, in 5 papers, which is really cool. And so, and now I'm an author, right? Go figure. But I'll tell you, when I was in high school, it was like, English? Are you kidding me? I mean, I liked the English, when you had to learn, your nouns, your pronouns, and how to diagram. I don't think they even teach that now. But
Yeah.
when it was reading novels and you had to do, oh my gosh, that was so far removed from me because it wasn't relevant. I was not a reader. But it was, I think it was right around 1973, 74 when I finally, I got books of interest, something that really interested me, and that's when I got into, the first book that really turned me on was called Looking Out for Number One. It's by Robert Ringer. It was a number one bestseller. Now, back in the 70s, there was nothing going on with personal development. And I happened to find that book in Target on their wherever little book table they had, and I was drawn to it. But it was 6 months before I could read it. I started to read it. I couldn't even get through the first page, right? And it lay there. I picked it up. I tried to read it again. It didn't happen. 6 months later, I picked it up. I couldn't put it down. I was ready for it.
Okay.
Now was the time, and that kind of got things going. And I was going through a lot of my own struggles as to who was I. I had totally lost my identity because I was the person who did the radio show. I was the person who wrote for the newspaper. I was the kids' mom. I was married to so and so. It's like, wait a minute, I have an identity. And so I was trying to find myself. At the same time, it was hard to find yourself when you're in this dead end. I felt this isn't where I was supposed to be. My dreams were, as you said, to see the world and everything. Here I was in a dead-end marriage. I had 3 kids under the age of 5. My mom had 11 of us. It's like, I'm not going there. What is going on? This isn't who I am. I was ready to check off the planet. I mean, my depression had hit really heavy. And I went for a walk one night to end my life, right?
Wow.
And I started talking to whom I thought was God at the time. Later, getting into the business that I'm in, it was my higher self that I was really, angry at. And I just started getting the anger. I had so much anger inside of me, and started that. And this is where I was getting my aha moments. There wasn't anyone to talk to. There's nothing back in the 70s other than you went to a shrink, and then he gave you a drug. Right, then you walked around with this stigma the rest of your life. I mean, it was not what it is today, and I couldn't pull myself into that, and I always felt different because it's like I always had this inner knowing, but I never understood it. And when I started getting all of this stuff out, and I started listening to that voice, it was my aha moments and my wake up. And then I knew, hey, I can break free. I can have anything that I want. That voice said I could. That voice said I could do whatever I wanted. And that was where I heard the mind over matter. I didn't know what it was, yet I was listening. And it's do this. And I did, and I broke free of it all. But it was, really working on yourself. And there's so much out there now. It's valuable.
I think
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think that, when you talk mind over matter and stuff like that, I know a lot of people hear this term, but I always call it like the flip of the switch. So
Right.
whenever my children or my husband are getting in one of those moods, I'm like, you guys need to start flipping your switch because you don't want to keep yourself in that all day, because
No.
you keep it that way all day. There's a day that's gone by with you feeling that way,
Right.
so I'm like, just flip it, go in the bathroom and talk in a mirror, do whatever it is that you need to do,
Right.
but you need to get out of it now because otherwise you're just wasting day after day after day feeling that way. And I know it's harder for other people because of the depression and things, but it's just like, if people, if you could just learn to do that, it's something that I didn't know how to do before,
Right.
and it's something that I've learned. And I actually learned that, believe it or not, through a company because I never did network marketing before.
Right.
And I actually learned that through a mentor in a company. All right. And I'm not with that company anymore, but I'm still friends with that mentor. And I don't know, she just taught me that. And I'm just like so grateful. And I feel like, for me, because I I believe in God and things. So for me, I
Right.
believe that she was put in my life for that reason, to teach me certain things so that I could teach that to someone else, you know? And so it just happened to be, you know, that was one thing that she always said, I want you doing this. Anytime you hear anybody negative talking, flip it. You know, I don't care if you start a
Right.
different conversation. I don't care if you just talk about something, whatever it is, you know, if you have to walk away from them, whatever, get away from the negative, you know?
Right.
And I know it's hard, especially when it's your family, you know, and with things, you know, that go on. But it's like, that's what I tell my kids or my husband. I'm like, I know that you guys didn't get mentored in that way. So I'm just trying to share with you. So don't, you know, I don't like, you know, because they'll get a little bit like, oh, mom, or oh, you know, whatever, right?
Right.
But I want them to learn that so that maybe down the road when they have their kids, they can teach it to them younger,
Right.
because it was something I wish I knew when I was younger. Okay. And I didn't learn it till probably 15 years ago.
Right.
So for me, it's, you know, it's so fresh for me. It's just something that I want to be able to have them learn, you know? So,
It takes a lot more energy to
yeah,
stay in that, say, negative aspect of things, you know, that downer, those, because the vibration is so much lower that it weights you down. And, you know,
yeah,
anxiety, depression, shame,
yeah,
all of these things are very real, but, you know, so it's that recognizing and understanding. And these are things that I've learned over the years as well, you know, to really get in touch with yourself and the storage in the subconscious and your cell memory and how you
yeah.
can start to remove things, you know. So my world has taken me, you know, from that first walk, you know, down a gravel road all by myself, just allowing to be an expression and get it out. But it is about paying attention to that inner knowing of who you are, you know, and that connects with the ultimate knowledge of the, you know, the divine intelligence, God, you know, Buddha, whatever your belief is in that higher intelligence of all that is.
Hmm.
And we all have the access
Yeah,
to tap into it, and it's great that you're sharing that with your family. You know, my kids were, you know, they were little when I started on my journey, and so they kind of got a lot of that as they were growing up, you know, and they would have rather had me just give them a whipping and throw them in, you know, in their room and just say, okay, or take something away. Yeah, but you know, you sit
yeah.
them down and you start talking to them, right? It's like, okay, and then they're like, oh, mom, not the dog, you know.
I know. Every time I go to say something, my son will be like,
Oh.
Mom, okay, you know.
But you
But I'm
know,
like,
it pays off because you know, I have three beautiful children that are just, they're the best. They really are. I've got grandchildren, I've got great grandchildren, you know,
oh my
and
goodness.
it's just amazing. Every generation just gives you another feeling of, I don't know, it's hard to describe what that feeling is. You know,
Yeah,
your mother, you've held that child for the first time when
yeah,
you gave birth to it. It's like, it's a special aha moment that unless you experience it, you don't know what it is, right? And
yeah.
then when
Well,
you,
I totally will tell you this. I'll tell you this though, when my kids do have kids
uh-huh.
and I become a grandma, I am going to spoil them rotten, because then they can go back home to them.
Well, that's just it. You know, being a grandma, that gives you that gives you pecking rights to like teach them all the things that happened when the kids were little, and it's your time to get
Yeah.
even.
Yeah. That's
But the
funny.
feeling of holding that first grandchild is so different from holding your own child. The first time you hold that
Mhm.
grandchild, right? And then when you hold your first great grandchild, oh my gosh, that's even different. You know,
Wow.
so now I'm excited to say, ooh, when I'm gonna hold my first great great grandchild, you know.
You're funny. Oh
You
goodness.
know, but again, you have all these different feelings and stuff, and it's staying in that, like you said, that positive aspect. It's that upbeat. You know, when you're feeling energy and love and excitement and, you know, whatever, that, let's go back into that vacation thing, because life can be a vacation in your mind. Life could be a vacation in everything that you do. If you're working in what you love, in your passion, it's like going to vacation every day. I mean, I come
Yeah.
in here to my studio, okay? this is where I feel at home. I feel alive when I'm behind the camera. I really feel alive. Sometimes working up into it, and you got, this, you got to get done, you got to get that done. Make sure this is in place and that's in place and everything, so it's just ding, 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 ding. You're like, oh crap, and whatever. But I'll tell you, when you sit down in front of that camera and then you push that button, and it's just like, whoa, another different world. So it's like walking out of your hotel room and there's the beach. Wow,
Yeah. Well, it's just, it's one of these things where, then, before you and I wouldn't have been able to really connect if we weren't doing this.
Right.
We wouldn't have connected. I wouldn't know who, I might have maybe friended you or been friends with you on Facebook or wherever, right? LinkedIn, wherever your social media is, but we would have never been able to be friends and get to know each other, on more of a personal level without being able to do what we're doing now, with Zoom, social media and things
Right.
like that, So I think it's great, like for myself, it's still new for me. So I'm still working on that good feeling like you have all the time,
Right.
feeling at home with it. So I'm still working with that one. I'm like, should I even pick up my cup of coffee? Am I allowed to drink my water while I'm talking?
Of course, it's
Like,
life,
I don't
right?
know. So I'm like, should I wipe my eye? Whatever, right? And as soon as
Just
you're
don't,
sitting there, you're like,
just don't pick your nose, okay?
there you go. So I'm like, well, as soon as you're not supposed to, just like now when you have to wear the masks, right?
Yeah.
As soon as you put it on, something itches you on your face. You can't help it. It's like, okay, this
Right.
itches, that itches. And it's like, it's just that mind thing,
Right. It's that little nervous thing.
So,
Yeah. I've had a lot of speakers come on that it's been their first time on a show, doing anything like that in the face of the camera. And every one of them, when the show was over, said, wow, that was like so easy. I felt so comfortable. It was like, wow, this was really a good experience. Thank you, And again, and this is why I like to do things organically rather than say, okay, question, answer, question, answer, question, answer, because it gives the audience an opportunity to say, they're being real. This is awesome. I could do that, right? And to be able to just have a conversation about anything and nothing.
yeah.
And to be,
Because of this, what we're doing, can help other people who see this to be able to get out of their comfort zone and do this. Because I know if I can get on here and do this with you, then I know that anybody else can do this.
right.
Because again, like I said, I've done Zoom calls, but not being live on, social platforms. And so it was something, it is different for me. So, but I figured, again, if I don't get out of my own way, then I'm always going to
Right.
hold myself back, so.
And that statement that you just said there, Janice, is really important. If I don't move out of my own way, and that doesn't matter what it is, whether it's in relationships, whether it's with your health, whether it's with finances, in business.
Yeah.
If you are in your own way, you're going to hold yourself back. And again, it goes back to what we were talking earlier, with the old programming. We're all programmed throughout our life, and the childhood programming is the most confining and the most detrimental, because we don't have an understanding sometimes of things, and the lack of communication isn't there, and so you begin to perceive things with just the small amount of database that you do have, and everything gets distorted and just really blown out of proportion. And that becomes cell memory, which develops into your personalities, your automatic responses to things, and so as you're an adult and now different, you have different database of information, you want to change things, but that old memory that's in that cell is so strong, it's on automatic pilot. Your subconscious is saying, I don't know who you think you are, sweetheart, but you know what? You remember way back when, and this happened and that happened. You ain't going there now, because I'm not going to let you. It's going to be this way, blah, 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 blah. That's what's going on in that internal conflict with that subconscious and with the consciousness of who you are. Because, you remember your past, you remember those things, but it's not your truth anymore. But the subconscious says, oh, yes, it is, because it rules.
Mm-hmm.
It's in there so tightly impacted, right? And it's been fed all of these years through conversations with other people, through movies. Anytime you felt that impact of emotion or something, it just kept adding to it, and it made this little molehill, this massive mountain, right? And so how do you get rid of it? And those are some of the techniques that I teach. There's a lot of techniques out there in different things, but how to really make friends with that subconscious, because if you don't make friends with the subconscious, it's going to hold on for tight. When you have a child and you give them a toy, and then you try to take it away from them, or another kid comes by and wants to take it away, they're going to fight to the bitter end. They're not going to let go of this. This is mine, it's mine, it's mine, and they are going to kick, scream, fight, do whatever to hang on to it.
Yep.
Your subconscious is the same way with that database of memory. It's the same way. So basically, when you recognize this old habit that's performing that you want to change, you can't change it by just trying to rip it out, because you're going to have this massive battle. So when you become friends with that subconscious and you say, okay, you're right. So you tell the little child, right? Hey, you're right. That's truth. Oh my gosh, you are so right. It relaxes the subconscious, and it's like, oh yeah, I don't have to fight, because hey, you told me I was right, because we all want to be right? And so now we're right. Now you can talk to that subconscious and say, remember way back when we decided that this was going to be it? Yeah, I remember that. It's like, well, I got this really cool thing that's so much better. So it's almost like saying, here's this candy bar we had. This candy bar is getting old and stale. What you say we throw this candy bar out, and then we bring this new candy bar in, and it's bigger and it's better and it's got all this other good things, and we can do this and we can do that. The subconscious is going to agree, and it's going to give you permission to get rid of the old habit, to let the attachment of that go.
Yeah.
That's freedom.
I heard something. I heard something from someone else who had said, when you were little, when you were a child, what happened to all of us from when we were children? Because in a children's mind, they can do anything, they can be anything.
That's right.
But when you grow up, like now, you're always thinking, oh my God, what are other people going to think of me? Oh my goodness, how do I look today? And don't get me wrong, you need to look, appropriate for whatever you're doing or whatever. And I'm not just saying, oh my gosh, don't care about anything, but the things that, if you want to grow in whatever ways you want to grow, whether it's business, personal, whatever, right? You have to now be willing to get out of your way and think back to when you were a kid. You could have dreamed anything, you could have been anything, right? They always say, oh, I'm going to be this, I'm going to do that. They're not scared to go do things,
No, they're not.
About us, so it's like, that's something that I try to keep always here, so that I will do things,
Right.
And I try to, you try to enforce that, because it's things that when you've learned things when you were younger, my parents didn't know about all this stuff. They didn't read into
Well, you
the
don't know
things,
what you don't know, and when your parents, again, they were probably back in the same age bracket, where I grew up, things were way different back then, I never heard my parents ever say, I love you, right? That's just something that wasn't said, it doesn't make it right or wrong, it makes it what it is, and so, and you make a really good point there, as to what is going on in that past and growing up and whatever. But it's that recognizing, too, that you are now in charge and you can make that change, right?
Yeah.
And it's how you do it. But it's the first thing you need to do is you need to recognize that something has to change here, and that's part of that getting out of your own way. But you want to put the new program, the new database back in, so that, because a negative something will jump right in that space, because when you talk about energy, space does not like dead air space, shall we say, it will put something back in there. So you want to, once you've got the new candy bar in place, you want to start programming it as being, I am loved, I am powerful, I'm courageous, because we want to move away from the fear of being rejected, the fearing of being judged, the fear of, being called stupid, the fear of saying you're ugly, the fear of, all of these little fears that are attached to all these other things. So we begin believing that we need to live our life how we perceive or think others want us to live it so that we can be accepted and fit in, when really in essence everybody is thinking the same thing, so nobody is being who they really are. And so it's really finding the identity and the truth of who you are, and then becoming that you and walking that talk of who you are. It doesn't matter what other people think of you, it matters what you think of you.
I mean, I was always a very shy kid. I was an only child. I was shy. Mom said, you got to sit, you got to be quiet, when grownups are talking, all those kind of things. And that was what she was taught, you know what I mean? So now it's different. I'd want my kids to interact, and I want them to talk and not be afraid to do that. But she didn't know what she didn't know then,
No.
just like
She was she was giving you the same information she got as a child. That's all.
And
it
so
was.
I taught that to my kids, and now, it's like reteaching them, even though they're older, so that hopefully they will teach my grandkids different,
Right.
and, that's all you can hope for, right? Is that they learn something from you and push it on to their
And it
kids,
just
right?
keeps, it makes the generations better and better. I want to share a little story that I heard a while back, and I think it's really apropos for what you're saying, because it is this generational thing. You teach what you were taught, right? And hopefully we get taught a little bit more where we can, change the things. But there's a little girl watching her mom bake a turkey, right? Or not a turkey, a ham, right? And she watched her. She was probably about 8 years old, and she watched her mom cut the end of the ham off, and then cut the other end of the ham off, and put it in the pan, and cover it, and put it in the oven. And she says, "Mom, how come you cut the ends off, right?" And she goes, that's a really good question. I'm not really sure what that, I don't know. She says, "You know what? Let me ask my mom, because Mom used to do that." So she went and she asked her mother. Right? And Mom goes, "I never really thought of it, but, your grandma did that, right?" And it's like, yeah, so I just did it as automatic, right? So she says, "I'm going to go ask Grandma, how come she did it?" Right? So she goes and she says, "Grandma, why do you cut the ends of the ham off? Right? Before you put it in the oven?" She said, "Oh, well, that was easy, because it had to fit in the pan."
Okay. That's funny.
It's like but it's become, look how it went down generation to generation to generation, and it would have continued into the great granddaughter's life had she not separated it out that way. How many other things have we handed down from one generation to the other just because it fit in the pan?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Right? So that's part of really starting to understand what are the actions and the activities that you're doing. Where did they come from? What's the reasoning behind it? Is it just a habitual thing that you don't think? It's just like breathing. You don't have to think about breathing. It's just automatic. You don't have to worry about the blood running through your system. It's automatic. You don't have to worry about your food digesting. It's automatic, right? So, those things that become automatic on the exterior world through that genetic, hand-me-downs, and then you wonder why things keep repeating. I had a girl on the other day. She was 14 when she had her first child.
Oh, okay.
And she lost it. And then she was not quite 16 when she gave birth to her second child, and then she had 8 children, just bang, 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 right? and and it was an abusive relationship. I mean, her story is so beautiful, you know, and it's how do I get out of this? Something's got to stop. The buck has got to stop here. She was hearing this voice too, that this is not your life. This is not the way things are supposed to be, and she broke free of it. And it was hard. Her story is so beautiful. But again, you know, what she said was, I didn't know any better because my mother had her first child when she was 14.
Oh, okay.
My grandmother had her first child when she was 16. It was just this repeating. She goes, I don't want my kids to start having kids at 14 or 16 because this is a habit. It has to break now. How many people do you know out there who are following this same pattern?
Yeah.
Not making a judgment, but it becomes a pattern. You do with what you know, right?
Yeah.
And you don't know what you don't know, but it just becomes that habitual thing that's passed down generational. You know, it's no different than just cutting the ends off to fit in the pan. Oh, well, that's what mom did, so that's what I'll do. Well, that's what grandma did, so that's what I'll do. That, you know, it's, where does the buck stop? Where does it stop? It stops with you. It stops with you, and the first thing is that recognizing, you know. So go out there, spend time on vacation, whether that vacation is up here, whether that vacation is in the virtual reality world with your little avatars running around, or just sitting looking at a photograph, you know, watching the waters move. Walk out in nature. Nature automatically will bring you back into harmony. So no matter how upset you are, how angry you are, how frustrated you are, go outside, hug a tree, put your feet on the grass, whatever it takes, you will definitely feel the difference, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because I hear people, you know, I've heard others say, don't walk outside without your shoes or something, like barefoot in the grass or something, right? And it helps you, whatever. And I walk out there in my bare feet like that. I don't like the bare feet so much like that. I'm like, I don't know, this don't feel so great to me, but, you know, I don't know. I wasn't thinking of, you know, maybe what it was good for, you know what I mean? It was just, I don't know.
Well, something different. And again, it's going to feel uncomfortable when you start making the changes and you're doing something out of the norm, the predictable norm in that comfort zone, and you're doing something different, but you did it, and it's like, well, it doesn't feel really good because it's the first time I've experienced it, but you probably experienced it as when you were little, but you don't remember it. And at the same time, the more you do it, the more comfortable it becomes. Like anything, it becomes comfortable. So, yeah, you know, gosh.
I don't know. That's funny. I mean, this was, I enjoyed myself on today's show. You know,
Good.
I appreciate, you know, just talking and getting to know you a little bit and stuff and that. So I'm not going to say that I'm going to watch it back, but
Yes, you will, because when we put it up there live, okay, when it's live, you're going to interact. People are going to talk to you about it. That's part of the whole thing, you know. It's, again, that exposure. And that's something that you're not used to. It's like, okay, I put myself on the line. I exposed myself here, right, in this interview. And now it's out there for the world to see.
And then when I become a regular on Beverly's show, everybody will be like, what is this girl doing? She's always on her show. Well, she became comfortable being comfortable.
There you go. And now she's so comfortable, she's starting her own show, right?
There you go. That's funny.
So, and if anybody out there listening is interested in wanting to be a guest on the show, the link will be up on top. And also, you know, don't be afraid to reach out if you want to start a show. You know, I do teach a class on how to become professional behind the camera, get that ease, get that content, you know, and what it means in the whole enchilada. So thank you for being here, Janice. It was fun. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. And, you know, go take that Hawaiian vacation because, you know what? I just may see you on the beaches of Hawaii myself.
I was going to say, I got to do a little work before I go, but, you know, we'll get there.
There you go, out there and run that track in VR so you get nice and, you know, shapely so you can be on that bikini beach,
that's
right?
What this, I don't know if you can see it. That's what I'm working on. Well, See, I can't show it. I don't
Yeah,
know. Well,
it's-
anyway,
So let's just stop for a second. Why you can't see it? So you can see mine, right? But we
But I
can't
can
see
do
yours.
one, too.
Yeah, mine has a green screen. Yours doesn't.
Oh, I
Oh,
don't know.
see, that's the difference
there.
between being 100% pro and a little bit pro, right?
Oh, okay,
So
I'm gonna
there's-
be calling you up. Beverly, I need a screen.
That's right. So again, that's what helps to set you aside. And again, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So kudos for the steps that you're taking, for every one of you out there listening. Get out of that comfort zone. Step out into that unworld, that unknown world. And don't be afraid. Don't say the fear of the unknown. Call it the excitement and the adventure of the unknown, because there's so much out there and you have the power to make it what you want. So
Well, thank you again, Beverly.
you're
Thanks
welcome, Janice. So it's
right.
time to say, go out there, be that best you that you can be, because Janice and I are going to be the best we that we can be.
That's
Make
right.
it a great day. Thanks for
Bye-bye.
listening.